Good evening. The Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board meeting is officially called to order. My name is Roberta Mayer. I represent Subdistrict 10, and I'm the chair of the board. I'm going to be asking our board members to introduce themselves to you, starting on my far right. Herb, would you get us started?
Good evening, everybody. My name's Herb Schreiner. I'm Sub-District 6. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Stacy Martin at large.
Aloha, Chelsea Che at large. Glad to see everybody here.
I'm Greg Knutson at large.
I am Holly Lyons. I'm in Guapa Isle, Spinnaker Isle.
Next to me is Jeffrey Jones. He is from the Neighborhood Commission Office, and he's our neighborhood assistant and helps with the minutes.
Ilse Silvercut, Sub-District 1.
Paige Alton, Sub-District 11, which is Portlock Road and Mauna Lua Kokokai Triangle.
And board members online.
Hi, I'm Elijah Lee, Sub-District 5, Mariners Cove.
All right. I do expect one or two other board members joining us online a little later. We're going to start with the first thing on our agenda, which is the status reports. And we're going to hear first from the Honolulu Fire Department. Captain Vaipa, I think, or Captain Parker, are you online?
I am. Can you hear me? Okay. You guys can hear me, correct? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome. Good evening, board members. Captain Parker here from the Hawaii Kai Fire Station with the Neighborhood Board Report. Incident statistics for February 2024. For fires, we had 0 structure fires, 2 wildland brush fires, 0 cooking fires, and 11 activated alarms. For emergencies, we had 82 medical emergencies, 1 motor vehicle collision with pedestrian, 5 motor vehicle crash collisions, 3 mountain rescues, 0 ocean rescues, and 0 hazardous materials incidents. Fire safety tip is regarding smoke alarm safety. Smoke alarms save lives are an important part of a home fire escape plan. Properly installed and maintained smoke alarms gives occupants early warning to get outside quickly. Install smoke alarms inside each bathroom and outside the sleeping areas, hallways, and on every level of the home, including the basement. Keep smoke alarms away from the kitchen or bathroom to reduce false alarms. Test all smoke alarms once a month. Press the test button to ensure the alarm is working. If the smoke alarm requires a 9-volt battery, replace the battery each year. Replace smoke alarm unit every 10 years or sooner if they do not respond properly. And that's it.
Thank you, Captain Parker. Are there questions for the Honolulu Fire Department from the board or from our audience? No questions. Thank you very much, Captain, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, board members. Good evening.
Moving on to the Honolulu Police Department.
Hi, aloha, Lieutenant Taro Nakamura with HPD. These are stats for February as compared to the previous month. Motor vehicle thefts were 2 as compared to 1. Burglaries were 2 as compared to 6. Thefts in general were 14 as compared to 11. And UEMVs, which is theft from autos, was 16 as compared to 13. This out of total calls of service of 6,134 for the district. Further statistical information can be found at honolulupd.org. And then our safety tip for the month is just a reminder, it's Hawaii's Move Over Law. If you see any cars, patrol cars, fire trucks, definitely ambulances working on the freeway at an accident or whatever, if at all possible, it's the law now to move over to the next lane. And if you can move over with one more lane, so you give the guys that are working that accident some space to work. This was born out of a very tragic accident on Honolulu Highway where an officer was killed. So it's just a reminder that if you can, move over. If you absolutely cannot, at least slow down and just watch out and just proceed forward with caution. And that's our safety tip for the month.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Are there questions for the Honolulu Police Department from board members or our audience? Yes, Paige?
Thank you, Lieutenant, for your report. Appreciated. Could you talk about for just a minute or two, we deal with a lot of emergency vehicles coming out of Hawaii Kai and going into town at rush hour, afternoons when there's bumper to bumper traffic, and mornings when there's bumper to bumper traffic. And could you speak just for a minute or two about if you're sitting at a red light, what you're supposed to do if there is an ambulance behind you?
A lot of things are basically common sense. If you're stopped at a red light, the light is red for you, but there's an ambulance behind you and everybody else is stopped, and you can see that you can proceed past the intersection and pull over to the side so the ambulance can proceed forward. You should do that. You definitely should do that. I mean, just think common sense. If it was your relative that was in that ambulance, you'd want them to get to the hospital as soon as possible, right? So yes, you're gonna violate that law, but there's an ambulance behind you, so there's a very good reason why you're gonna go past it, and that's how I believe that's how it's written up in the actual HRS. So you can go through a red light if there's a emergency vehicle behind you. Now, of course, if there's guys turning left and they don't see you, don't do that, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for the Honolulu Police Department? Lieutenant, later on our agenda, we wanted community input on whether or not we should be considering park closure hours for all beaches in East Honolulu. Could you speak to that issue? Are there parks that are not closed along the Kaiwi coastline? And is it desirable to have park closure hours for those beaches as well?
Well, it's always been HPD's stance that if you're going to enforce laws, you should have due notice and you should post proper signs. So, in fact, I got your email from the other day about Jolukela and those parks. I can't technically speak for the department as a whole, but if you're going to enforce park rules for a public area, then to me, it makes sense to post signs so people are given due notice and fair warning that, hey, these laws are in effect for this area.
Thank you very much. Yes, Paige?
Lieutenant, could you, I don't know if you can or not, but can you enlighten us maybe on what kind of calls? I think one of the beaches that's being considered for a park closure is Sandy Beach. And I'm just curious as to what kind of calls are there at night that you guys are getting there at night that might warrant closing that park/beach from 10 until 5 or whatever. What kind of calls do you get there?
Well, I'm sure we've all been teenagers. We all were teenagers back in the day. You get those kind of calls. You get people drinking in the park. You get people congregating, racing. The racers turn around over there. You get all manner of calls, and then of course farther out, you get those beach parties and things like that. So yes, you do get all manner of calls at you can get them at Sandy Beach. And then if there are no official signs posted, it makes things a little bit more difficult for us. But just like the two signs, this, I don't think I guess it's this trial project because there's a time period on this, like, just like Joe Lucella. You know, it is a good idea to post them so people have fair warning.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to be moving along. Before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to acknowledge that Elizabeth Riley, board member, has joined us online. Hello, Elizabeth. You want to just wave your hand? Thank you. All right. Board of Water Supply, Iris Oda.
Thank you. Take care.
One announcement. The Detected Leak Week from April 14th to the 20th. It's time to chase down and repair those pesky leaks. So we've partnered with Hardware Hawaii for this annual campaign. So we want you to check your plumbing fixtures and irrigation systems, because one of the most common leaks is a toilet, which is caused by a worn out faulty flapper. So learn more about Detect the Leak Week and leak detection, and win some prizes in person at our event, and an in-person event on Wednesday, April 17th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Tamarind Park, Bishop Square in downtown Honolulu. Go to our boardofwatersupply.com to find out more information. So that's the one announcement from this month. And of course, to remind you that we do have the $100 toilet rebate until April 14th. So please look online for that rebate also. And the status update for the Palama Valley Water System Improvement and Lateral Project. The start date has moved to May 13th due to delayed arrival of pipe material. So we'll let you know of any other updates at the next meeting. That's my report for this month.
Are there questions for the Board of Water Supply? No questions. Thank you very much, Iris, for joining us. The next status report is the Kaiser Complex Schools, and Mr. Gu had informed me that he is attending another function, so he'll be a little late. So we'll have his report when he does join us. We're moving on to our next item of business, which is vacancies. Members of our audience, we are a 15-member volunteer board. We currently have 3 vacancies. One vacancy is in Subdistrict 8, which is Lunalilo Park, Mauka. We also have 2 at-large seats. These are temporarily changed from Subdistricts 3 and 9 because they were vacant for over 6 months. The Neighborhood Commission Office did allow us to temporarily convert these 2 subdistrict seats to at-large seats. So first I'm going to ask, are there any volunteers for the seat in Subdistrict 8, Lunalilo Park, Mauka? Yes.
Hi, I'm Gene Tierney, and I live in Subdistrict 8, and I would like to volunteer.
All right. So Jean, would you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a former member of the neighborhood board, resigned a couple of years ago because of business purposes. And I've lived in Hawaii Kai now for 13 years. And my primary interests are in environment and quality of life issues that occur here in the Valley.
All right. Jean, could you bring your driver's license up so that Jeffrey can check your address? Is there any other volunteer who would like to be considered for an appointment to Subdistrict 8? Paige?
Hi, Jean.
Hi.
Nice to see you again. Why are you coming back to the board now? What has sparked your interest to come back? What's your catalyst for coming back now?
Well, you might recall, meeting before last, I came by because of the activity that Kamehameha Schools has engaged in the property behind that run along Cocoa Crater in Subdistrict 8. They've been ostensibly clearing that land for fire management purposes. And quite frankly, I think they're doing a bad job. So that prompted me to come back. And then there was the opening of the at-large seat, and you got a new member, and I stepped aside for that. And then I saw that the Subdistrict 8 was open, and I thought, okay, I'll come back. So that was my primary motivation. And I've always had an interest. I follow the agenda and the meetings on a regular basis. So, yeah. That's it.
All right. Our neighborhood assistant has indicated that Jean's address is in Subdistrict 8. And so at this point, we need a nomination from the board. Greg? All right. Jean has been nominated by Greg and seconded by Chelsea. So any other questions, or are you ready for the vote? All right, there is a formality. It will be a roll call vote. And so Jeffrey will call the roll.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go down the list that I have in front of me. Again, just say his first name if you would like him to be voted to the board. If not, you can say no or just stay silent. And for those online, please unmute your mic. That way I can include you in the vote. Member Alton? Che?
Yes, Jean.
Knutson?
Jean.
Lee?
Jean.
Lyons? Chair Mayor?
Jean Tierney?
Member Riley?
Jean Tierney?
Reiner?
Jean.
Silva?
Jean.
And Martin?
Jean.
So you could do the nomination, or you can ask for nominations for the at-large seats before I give him his oath of office.
Thank you, Jean. You've been voted in. We'll give you the oath of office in just a few minutes. If we have any additional members appointed, we'll swear them all in at the same time. Okay? Do we, I'm sorry, Elizabeth, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I was going to nominate somebody for an at-large seat when we're ready.
All right. First, I'd like to ask, are there any volunteers who would like to be considered for appointment to an at-large seat on the board? Please come up to the podium. Come up to the podium and introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dixon Park. I lived in Hawaii Kai pretty much all my life, with the exception of a few years. But I'd like to try and give back to the community and be more involved. I've been walking around the community a lot. People have seen me walking in the afternoon. I've been noticing that there are things that we can do to probably make things a little bit nicer. I cover up some graffiti, there's other things that we can do to maybe uplift the community a little bit more. So that's why I had the interest to come in and see it.
All right. Are there any other volunteers who would like to be considered for an appointment to an at-large seat? No other volunteers? All right. Questions for Mr. Park? Board members? Yes, Greg?
Yeah, I'd like you to express your general feelings about development and in particular, your position with regard to preservation land within the Hawaii Kai area.
Well, there's been a lot of, over the years, there have been a lot of, initiatives to develop areas like the Ka'i'i area. And that I believe for myself, I would like to see those kept in the state that they're in now. I'm not anti-development, but I do believe that we're running out of some space and we do want to keep a lot of it open. I grew up along that Ka'i'i area. And there was also, I believe, some issues about probably developing the coastline above the Ka'i'i area for resort or I think it was vacation type of a thing. Yeah. What I like to tell people is that go out to the Ka'i'i area. It's one of the only places where you can go out on the island and look around and pretty much see nothing. Maybe you see a little bit of the housing along the Paliha Vale. But if you go out there and you look out towards Kokotet, it looks like it's undeveloped. And I would hope that that area is kept that way. So I was happy when I believe the city bought it from Kamehameha Estate and I guess made it into a preservation.
Yeah, that land had been zone preservation. City, state, and community all got together and through the Livable Hawaii Kai Hui and Kaiwi Coalition, they purchased that particular land. So what about any swatches of land that are within Hawaii Kai that are currently zoned preservation? Would any argument convince you to switch their zoning to development?
Personally, I think that I'd like to keep most of the areas that are clear right now as cleared. I'm concerned about people who live in the area and have to come. If they do, I guess, develop any more areas, it would make the drive along Kalaniʻi in the morning a lot more difficult. But I make that drive, and I'm hoping that it doesn't get any worse because I don't think the rail is going to come out with this.
All right, any other questions? We would need a nomination from the board. All right, nomination from Holly Lyons for Dixon Park. Is there a second? Chelsea, seconds. Any further questions, board members? Seeing none, I'm going to ask Jeffrey to call the roll.
Can you remind me of your first name one more time? Dixon.
Greg's question was, since these vacancies were Subdistrict 3 and Subdistrict 9, they both are now at large, and he was wondering whether or not, if they become vacant, whether they would revert back to their subdistrict. And for the remainder of this term, I think it'll still be at large.
All right, so again, for the purposes of the vote, I'm just gonna go down the sheet I have. If you would like him to be voted to the board, please say his first name, which is Dixon. If not, you can stay silent or say no. Member Alton? Jay
Dixon.
Knudsen?
Dixon.
Lee?
Dixon.
Lyons? Chair Mayor? Member Riley?
Dixon,
Shriner?
Dixon.
Silva?
Dixon.
And Martin?
Dixon.
Okay, so Dixon and Jean, first of all, Elizabeth, you have a hand up.
oops. I was going to nominate Joel Brilliant, and I spoke with him earlier, and he said he was coming to the meeting, but I guess he's not there.
He is here. Joel, are you volunteering or no? No, you have to come up and let us know whether you would like to be considered. Please come on up.
Thank you, Chair.
So Joel, introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be a member of this board.
Thank you. Joel Brilliant. 16. So I've not been here a long time, but my spouse has been in here since she was born. Born and raised in Hawaii, graduated from Sacred Hearts Academy, which most people recognize where it is. I've spent 30 years in the military and 20 years in utility industry and member of a lot of professional and general board, as well as local government positions, volunteer and assigned. Neighborhood boards, I've been a board member of 2 in Southern California, none here in Hawaii. Reasons for being or expressing interest. Very, very basic, simple belief that being a contributing member of the community is something that most people should do and spend extra time involved in. So that is the basic reason, and it's what I've done most of my adult.
All right, are there questions for Joel Brilliant? All right, we need a nomination.
I'll
Elizabeth?
nominate Joel. Thank you.
Is there a second? Paige? Holly seconds. Question from Paige.
Hi, so same question that Greg was asking Dixon, what's your stance on development in Hawaii Kai, preservation property? Where do you see all of that going?
I don't have a position in general. Don't believe it's something that I would push nor object to. It would be more of looking at the circumstances and the facts and the information provided for that evaluation. No different than putting speed bumps on a road. What's the science to that? What are the statistics of that? What are the numbers of accidents that cause some agencies to say we need to do that? Same thing with development. There's some development that makes sense in certain places and certain times, and some it just doesn't. And I've seen both in the broad area of East Oahu. And it's not that my opinion was the same as what was ultimately decided on, but I've seen both degrees. What I'm against more than anything else is local politicians making a personal decision that discounts the neighborhood and the community and what they want. I've seen that in Southern California more often than I want to.
All right, are there other questions? Yes, Greg?
Yeah, that answer, while it's kind of okay, it sort of concerns me that it's not a strong position with respect to preservation lands. So I'm wondering if it were down to the point of someone proposing to develop on preservation land, would you be inclined to support that or oppose that?
And I didn't get into that part of the response. Making the assumption when asked a hypothetical, and it really is an extreme hypothetical.
This isn't. This is a very specific case that we deal with.
Yeah, but still, with making the hypothetical and I would say an assumption that whatever's being developed is permitted for that in that area. So those decisions have already been made, and I would say I would still have to look at, is that development appropriate for that neighborhood? But some are and some are not. As far as changing the zoning to fit a development need, I would have to be overwhelmingly convinced that made some sense before I would put my arm up in the air and say I'm for that. And I mean a strong, overwhelming logical rationale for something like that. But I can't say I would say no, just arbitrarily against development.
All right, are you ready for the question? Okay, I'm going to ask Jeff to call the roll call.
All righty, once again, this is to fill the second at large. Let's go down the list that I have. If you would like him on the board, please say his first name, which is Joel. If not, you can say no or just stay silent. Member Alton? Jay?
Joel.
Knutson?
Joel.
Lee?
Joel.
Lyons? Chair Mayor? Member Riley?
Joel,
Shriner?
Joel.
Silva? And Martin?
Joel.
It passes.
All right. I want to welcome our 3 new board members. I'm going to ask Jeff to swear you all in. Would you please come on up and
Righty. So just some formality stuff. I'm going to give you guys the oath of office. Oh, no, you're okay. Give you guys the oath of office that you guys have to repeat back to me. After that, I will give you 2 forms that you're going to sign and give to me before you leave the meeting today. One, you are going to watch the videos with the link, sign that, and bring it back to the next board meeting you attend. And if it, along with the board, once you do the oath of office and sign your papers, you can come up to the front and join the board for future decisions with this board meeting. Sound good? So repeat after me, please. I solemnly swear that I will faithfully support the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, the Constitution and the laws of the state of Hawaii, the charter and laws of the city and county of Honolulu, and the provisions of the neighborhood plan. I will conscientiously and impartially discharge my duties to the best of my ability as a member of the neighborhood board to which I have been elected. Alrighty, welcome aboard.
Congratulations, Jean, Joel, and Dixon. You can sign those forms and come on up and take a open seat at the board. Squeeze yourself in. You will be allowed to vote on any matters that come before the board that require a vote by the board tonight. All right, we're going to be going, I see that Mr. Gu has been able to join us. So we're going to go back to the status reports and allow Mr. Gu to share information about the Kaiser Complex schools. Thank you, Mr. Gu.
Good evening, board. I appreciate your having us and able to share some updates. I shared some of the notes from our Kaiser Complex of Schools. I'm Cappy Gu, I'm principal of Hahaioni Elementary School, but I represent all of the schools, Anaheim Elementary School, also Kamaluiki and Koko Head Elementary Schools, New Valley Middle School, and Kaiser High School. So some great news from all of us to tell you a little bit about our International Baccalaureate schools. We're all authorized, and we believe in transdisciplinary learning. That means learning all the subjects kind of tied in together, kind of like what real life is. So real life is really about just existing. We don't do things in life just language arts on one side and the next hour math. Everything is kind of woven together. We also believe in compassion education. And so that's how to impact the community with compassion, try to create a better and more peaceful world. For Kaiser High School, some great cool things happening. One of our alumna, Malia Nam, she's a golfer in the LPGA in class of 2018. She did really well. She was first place on the first day of competition this past week, and she placed 22nd overall after 4 days. So great job, congratulations. We also have a 2024 Scholastic Art winners, and that's Ayu Sumayasa and Vera Wang. Also, big congratulations to a prestigious award. Coming up this Saturday, we have our 808 cleanups, Kaiwi Coastline sign up, and that's spearheaded by Kaiser students. And so we'd like everybody to come on out, and information is online. I mentioned it last month. New Valley Middle School, I just want to say they have an amazing band and orchestra program led by Director Wayne Fanning. They do concerts, they do competitions with other bands, they do public performances, they do parent performances, and they do concerts for service. So they tour around all of the elementary schools here in Waikai, and they do concerts, free concerts for them, and our kids are just jazzed up after that. We appreciate their service and their support, and they just are an outstanding program at New Valley Middle School. Also, Kaiser Complex Elementary Schools, we are receiving training, probably the highest level training that you can imagine for math instruction, and that's with Dr. Yip Bonhar and Dr. Peter Lijdal. Dr. Yip Bonhar is the trainer of all schools in Singapore, and if you know anything about Singapore and math, it's some of the highest achievement scores in math in the world, and so we're very lucky to have this high level of training, and that's one reason why we have the highest proficiency rates in the entire state. That's all of the updates I have, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Gu, either from the board members or members of our audience? No questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Gu, for joining us tonight.
Okay, big mahalo for your support.
All right, we're going to be moving on to our community announcements. Are there members of the audience that have, or members of our board that have community announcements that they would like to share with the entire community? All right, I have a few that I would like to let everybody know. I'd like to remind everybody that Mayor Blangiardi is holding his town hall meeting in our area on May 23rd. This is a Thursday at 6:30 p.m. It'll be held at the Cocoa Head District Park Gymnasium. I encourage all of our residents to come out and meet the mayor and let him know what you are thinking about what needs to happen in our community and how well the city is doing. Also, I'd like you to know that the Department of Planning and Permitting will be holding 2 hearings on special management area permits for our area. For a home at 10 Poipu Place, that hearing will be held on Tuesday, April 9 at 10:30 a.m. at City and County of Honolulu at their, I believe it's at the auditorium, the Fosse Municipal Building. And there is a hearing on April 5th at 10:30 a.m. for 3 Poipu Drive. So if there's anybody who is interested in being present at those hearings, please feel free to visit them. If there are no other community announcements, I'm going to ask if there are any public generated issues. These are issues the community wants to bring to our attention that is not on our agenda. Please come on up.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, Mayor, board members, community members. My name is Natalie Uasa, and I assume all of you know about the new speed hump that was put in on Kalaniana-Ole Highway. I just wanted to raise some concerns about it. That speed hump extends all the way to the edge of the road on the Mauka side. So that means that bicyclists now have to go over a speed hump when they're traveling townbound. And there are no markings, however. So for a bicyclist coming, like say from this distance to that, if the hump were right there, you can't really tell that it actually has a raised road. It's darker because it's new pavement, but it doesn't really show that it's raised area. So I'm concerned that a bicyclist will be, lose control or not be aware and then have a problem riding over that area. And in general, we know that the state has a terrible record with respect to maintaining our roadways. And the other concern I have is that when those paint lines wear away and if the signs are stolen, that some dark night, a motorcyclist, moped driver, also, we have a lot of tourists now out here on mopeds, might also lose control on that speed hump. So I'm concerned on several fronts, as well as, I think I brought this up when you folks were discussing this at having a potential in Kalama Valley, that it also slows down our emergency vehicles. And so, I had a life or death instance with my husband one time, and I would not want to have an emergency vehicle go over a whole bunch of speed bumps to get to, the hospital or a burning house or that kind of matter. So I just wanted to let you know, there are these concerns. My preference would be to have more police presence out there and ticket speeders and people who are distracted driving, that kind of thing. But I don't know if you're going to talk about this at some point, and it's too bad I don't see any state representatives here, but maybe we do have one. But anyway, I just wanted to raise those concerns. Thank you so much.
Was there a question from a board member? Ilse?
It wasn't really a question. I just thought that maybe the signage and the labeling will come later. But they will paint the road and make the signs, because on the Waimanalo side in Kailua, those speed humps are, I think they're quite visible. You won't miss them as a bicyclist.
If you are a motorist and you're driving in your proper lanes, that's correct. But I think they've done all the work that they're going to do, and there is absolutely no reason to have a speed bump for bicyclists. We don't go 35 miles an hour at all. So thank you though for that.
Okay. Yes, Chelsea?
Is it, Nellie, your understanding that was a part of the plan, or was that an oversight that the speed hump had extended into the bicycle lane? Because I remember talking about this last month, right? that could be potentially a safety.
No, I just need to
issue.
clarify. The speed hump on Kalana Anole Highway never came to the neighborhood board for discussion or review.
I see, but the hump itself, we had talked about whether or not the hump will extend into the bike lane.
Well, as I recall, the humps you guys were considering are in Kalama Valley, and I don't think there are any bike lanes out there current, so that wouldn't have an impact, but I am also concerned about bicyclists who have to ride downhill and then encounter a speed hump, which happens, for example, at the women's prison, it's actually very scary going fast downhill and then all of a sudden having to brake really hard when you're on a bike. So I don't know if they are done painting. I mean, I think they are because they did all that work Friday. But, you know, I guess that could be a question for our state representatives when they.
Paige?
Are we discussing this now, or do we want to wait on this topic to add it somewhere?
I'm not sure we're going to add it to the agenda. If you have questions, you may ask questions.
I don't have questions so much as that, you know, this is a personal thing for me because that's my district. That's my Kuleana. And it burns me that this was not something that was discussed last month. We were discussing speed humps and speed bumps and the differences of Kalama Valley and the speed mitigation in Kalama Valley. It was very specific to Kalama Valley. And there was never any mention of putting any kind of speed mitigation on Kalana Valley Highway. None of the public was informed, asked, queried. We weren't asked for any kind of input. We weren't asked for any kind of suggestions as far as this speed hump goes. And it floors me that the work was done 3 days before the neighborhood board meeting. That they went out there and did this job in one day, and it is done, by the way. It's the signs they're up, they're painted, they're done as far as the work goes. And they did it without any community input. And I have dealt with that intersection in and out of Portlock Road for 60 years, longer than almost anybody who lives on Portlock Road. And when there were 100,000 cars on the road, it was a different story. But now there's 1 million cars on this island. And when Bryce Moore did his report last week for KHON, he filmed cars making illegal left turns into Portlock and making illegal left turns out of Portlock. I have a neighbor that tells me flat out, I'm not going to the light. I'm not wasting my time. I could just go right out here onto the highway. And I sat there for 3 hours today and I watched cars, and there were 2 very close near misses. The guy in the crosswalk almost got nailed because the car that was slowing down for the speed hump, the guy in back of him did not want to slow down for the speed hump. Either didn't see it, didn't care, wasn't going to slow down. And then the car that was turning left into Portlock was waiting for them to slow down. You have a major fatality coming at this intersection. And they've got to do something. Either that speed bump needs to go and it needs to be taken out. There's no reason to have that speed hump there. I don't care if they said it was for the crosswalk. There's maybe one person on average that crosses that crosswalk a day, maybe one. And it's the middle of a state highway. They put in this speed hump. And yes, it goes completely across the other side of the road. And it's insane. I don't know if these people don't drive in Hawaii Kai or if they don't live in Hawaii Kai or if they know anything at all about that intersection. But this issue to me is it's insane that they did what they did with this speed hump. And I think they did it purposely before the neighborhood board meeting so that there would be no public input on this. Because I think that if they had seen all of the chatter that's been going on Nextdoor about it, they wouldn't have done what they did.
All right, Elizabeth, you have your hand up.
I had a question for Natalie. Natalie, in other areas, in the more urbanized areas where they have speed humps, do they go from literally across and into where there are bike lanes?
I've been over several of them in town and Kailua Bound, and honestly, I don't remember. Although I do recall the one by the women's prison, there was no place for bicyclists to go to avoid the speed. So
Okay, I'm
not sure.
I
what
mean,
the problem-
no problem. I'm just wondering what their standard is, and I'm wondering how they did it in the urban area. I'll keep an eye out. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Natalie.
Yes, Greg?
Yeah, I was intending to bring this up with the governor's representative because it was a State Department of Transportation initiative and totally their own, as everyone said. They did not come before us or the community. So my question would be, what is the rationale? Well, how did they decide to do that? Last Wednesday, I was the one person who used that crosswalk and yeah, it seems to be very seldom used. And for those who follow the issue on Nextdoor, a lot of people are questioning, well, what's the logic behind having just a raised crosswalk? If it's a matter of slowing it down to protect pedestrians, then it shouldn't be on the hump. It should be before the crosswalk so that people slow down. But yeah, it is a major disruption. I was the one who had hoped to have some speed mitigation in Kalama Valley, but I think this is an entirely different situation and I would be opposed if we had only been asked. But I still intend to bring this up with the governor's representative, Mike.
I was informed that we were going to have someone from the State Department of Transportation here. Could you come on up and introduce yourself? I understand that you're going to be visiting our meetings maybe once a quarter. And so maybe you might be able to shed a little light on this particular issue.
Hi, my name's Galen Wong. I'm the acting administrative services officer. And I also take care of legislation for the highway division. I only found out about this via like two folks who the news, and then I tried getting the information from Shelley and Brian Timur. He's in charge of the traffic division that does these types of installation of stuff like that. So I think, because of the 2-day vacation week, a lot of them took off and they didn't return my email or giving me information about this project and what it does.
Could you?
I drive on Nimitz going towards past the old the Salvation Army is, and they have a speed bump here, and there is a bike lane on that side too. So, but it doesn't go. They usually don't put it through that bike lane. But
Could you find out what the general standard is, whether the humps go through bike lanes or not?
I can do that.
And also, could you check whether the painting of the stripes, et cetera, are completed? Have they finished? Or are they still working on maybe making it a little clearer for the bikers as well as the cars? Okay. And also, we would like to be informed perhaps ahead of time so that the community can weigh in on whether or not it might be a good idea.
It's based on statistics of accidents and speeding, stuff like that, but I don't know what was the cause of it. If you guys had a lot of accidents here, but
Well-
that would be the only thing that I would always.
Well,
do.
it is a dangerous crosswalk,
Right.
but part of the issue is what Paige was referring to. People are making illegal left turns out of Portlock Road and into Portlock Road. And so,
Let them know about that, what they can do about something like that.
okay. And we have another question online. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thank you. Good sir, thank you very much for attending. And may I ask, when you do get responses, would you consider sharing with Chair Mayor sooner than holding on to it until the next meeting?
Yeah, as soon as I get, I'll email the people, and then as soon as I get stuff, I'll always email. I like to get back and communicate with people. I don't tend to hold on to things. I get things.
Okay. Thank you.
We should get something within the week or so, but hopefully everyone gets back, and then I can talk to them and ask them questions and engage all your concerns.
All right, go ahead, Paige.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. With all due respect to Natalie and to all the bike riders out there, my issue is very, very much less about the safety of bicyclists and the safety of motorists. And I know that in talking with my neighbors and with my constituents up and down Portlock Road and in the Triangle, people want this speed hump gone. It's in the wrong place. It came in at the wrong time. It's just not in the right place for that highway. If you're going to take a major highway, and I'm not talking about Waimanalo. Waimanalo's 2 lanes. You can't compare Waimanalo. And the speed humps that are on their way to Kailua, they don't go completely across all the lanes of that highway. So this is an anomaly as far as speed humps that I've seen on the island so far. People want it gone. And as far as my observation in the 3 hours I sat there today, it's only been in 72 hours, and I saw 2 near misses. There's gonna be a fatality. And so just, whatever you have to do, whoever you have to take that back, tell them the community wants this gone. It's just.
Well, the people who have spoken to Paige want it gone. I'm not sure if it's a
I
general
talked to,
community.
a lot of people thought it was a
Okay.
good idea, but I can tell you that most of my constituents say that it's a hazard.
All right. Chelsea, you have a comment?
Just actually a request question. So all of this really has to do with, I'm trying to understand, thank you for coming, by the way, this is perfect timing. What is the process that's in place? And so there's got to be some deliberation that happens, and there's a plan that gets issued, and someone goes out there and installs something. But if we can have that explanation, what the process is and where is the community input into it, and so that it makes sense to all, including the installers and the community. That makes sense.
I'll check with the engineers and the people who did
Thank you.
how they got their,
Yeah.
the choice for the location.
Right.
But, they're like, these speed bump, they can take it down because the one at Poly they had where it caused a lot of the truck to go over and
Right.
the neighboring home got damaged by all the vibrations of the truck that
Right.
we had to take away that speed bump. So we are concerned and
Yeah.
in the next few months we'll decide if it still does stay or not. So you'll probably just look at everything.
Yeah, and the rest of the process is how do you undo it, right? So what is the process to do that? Thank you.
All right, Galen, thank you very much. Jean has a further comment.
I think we should put this on the agenda and carry this issue forward.
All right, we have
Next time.
one request to put this on the agenda. All right, then we'll put it on the agenda for next time. And so Galen, if you could get that information back to us, I will share it with the board by email, but also if you could come to our next meeting.
I can also ask the person that.
Or yes, invite your colleague to come to explain.
Just administrative personnel.
Yes.
Finance and money stuff, but
All right,
let me know and then I'll make an effort to come because I'm only gonna come once every 3 months. So if you want me to come one of the next.
okay. All right, but thank you, and very nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Other public generated issues. Come on up.
My name is Kahi. Aloha, everyone. Aloha, ko. Show you folks what this was. So this is just a safety issue, safety concern for the public, the citizens of Hawaii Kai, the board and the public that is here tonight. So Crime Stoppers. So I was here at the last board meeting, which was February 27th. There was 3 gentlemen that spoke right before my sister, Stacy Fujii. Again, my name is Kahi. It's very coincidental that the first gentleman that spoke was very angry at cats. And he mentioned toxoplasmosis and that toxoplasmosis can kill monk seals. Yes, that is true. Toxoplasmosis can kill monk seals. But if you look at the overall statistics, that the recent statistics, so March 12th of last year was, I'm sorry, June of last year was the latest monk seal killing, and that was due to intentional killing to blood force trauma. And that was last year, and that was a 3-month-old Ho'omau Lehua was the name. Prior to that, on March 12th, there was RQ-76, which was Malama, which was a young female monk seal. Some of you may have seen it in the news. That was intentionally killed by blunt force trauma in Waianae. I can go on and on. NOAA conducted a statistics of the causes of monk seal deaths, and 43% of monk seal deaths were due to intentional killings by humans. I just want to mention that we have a lot of killings from humans, and now it's proceeded into cats. And there was 3 cats that were killed, shot in the head during that same week, which was February 27th of the last board meeting. The third incident is on Crime Stoppers. I just passed it out. And that was a cat that was killed 3 times, shot 3 times in the head. I thought, maybe the first time, the first single shot would have done it. And that means that the cat, that person, whoever did it, had to shoot them right in the head, and the cat is staring at you and pleading for its life. So if anyone has any information for any of these killings, please call Crime Stoppers. It's completely anonymous. And again, I did put the Hawaiian Humane Society warning that it is against the law to commit animal abuse, any type of animal. I know some people don't like cats, but it is against the law to abuse any animal. And if anybody has any questions about toxoplasmosis, please come and see me. I have been an employee of NOAA for 12 years. So I can answer as many questions as I can. I no longer work for NOAA, but I do work for the federal government in a different capacity. And I can point you to the experts on toxoplasmosis. Any questions?
Could you repeat your name again, please?
Sure, Kahi Fujii. Sorry, I'm wearing this.
How do you spell the first name?
Kahi.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you for sharing that with us. Appreciate that. Yes, Greg?
I'd just like to thank you for coming and pointing out the coincidence. But I also think that, yeah, this is a crime that is being investigated. And I would even suggest that someone would be at suspect level who was going on about toxoplasmosis and the danger of cats. And then within a couple of days, we have this graffiti in Cocoa Head District Park and dead cats. I mean, it just seems like someone should be really looking into that. And if that individual has a clear alibi explanation, then fine. But I don't think it should go unquestioned.
Thank you. I'd also like to just point out that there is a $5,000 reward for any information that anyone has to any of these cases.
All right. We have Elizabeth, you have your hand up.
No, Chair, I was just going to ask about him mentioning about that. I had heard about that too, so I thought that was important. Thank you. But the reward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Kahi, for bringing that to our attention. Okay. Any other public generated issues?
I'm Carla Garjaka. I'm here to talk about Learn.
No, this is not the time to talk about it. No, I'll call you up when it's time. All right. If there are no other public generated issues, we're going to go on to our presentations. And the first is May is Firewise Month, and we're going to have an update on the neighborhoods that are working toward Firewise designation. And our presenter tonight is Matt Glee from Hawaii Kai Strong. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. I'm Matt Gly, Hawaii Kai Strong. I'm also a ham radio operator volunteer CERT instructor for the city and county of Honolulu, a member of the Firewise Board for Camila Nui Valley, Mariners Cove, and the state chair for Hawaii BOAD, which is Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster. So we're responding on Maui pretty heavily right now and have been for a number of months. The reason we became one is the fires in Camila Nui Valley, right behind Mariners Cove in 2017, 2018. So we became certified as a Firewise community back then. But we were recertified. We recertify every year. And we were based on our activities. So here's what we did, just briefly. We spent 754 volunteer hours, spent $9,200 in supplies and dumpster rentals to support clearing the vegetation. And all that was worth about $31,000 at the present rates. In May, we worked with 31 Team Rubicon volunteers and cleared the entire fire break behind the homes on Neomalo Loop in a day and a half. And we cleared 120 cubic yards of vegetation in a day and a half. First time it had ever all been cleared. We also supported Firewise presentations in West Oahu, Hawaii Kai, Waialaiki 5, and the Ridge Association for Waialaiki 4, and supported the East Side Preparedness Fair. So as a result of those activities, we're starting 2 new Firewise communities right here in Hawaii Kai. So Coco Terrace, the representative who's sort of leading that effort is Lisa Lockhart, and Queensgate 2 is Clifford O'Donnell. And I tried to get them to come tonight, but without enough notice. So I'm gonna bring them in the future because they're basically just starting the process. So we're gonna be doing community risk assessments, which we do with the Department of Forestry and with the fire department, as well as experts from Hawaii Wildfire Maintenance Organization. So in 2024, soon, we're going to do a Firewise Recognition Day. So on the 19th, which is Sunday, May 19th, we're going to set up at the beginning of Mariners Cove. So if you're coming down Hawaii Kai Drive off of Luna Leo, we'll have a tent with a lot of material and volunteers there. And then later that afternoon, we're going to move it back into Camila Nui Valley because there are a lot of people who hike, bike, do many other activities back there because it's as if you're not even on Oahu. It's a special place. Anyway, so we'll be doing that on the 19th. So if you're interested, come by. I'm going to invite these other folks to come by then. We're also going to do a work day. So last year we cleared that fire break. It's like 1,500 feet fire break. This year we're going to have a work day on June 1st and June 2nd if needed. And we're going to move to other areas to make sure that they're cleared because there's a lot of grass growing. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So anyway, any questions? Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Gene.
How did you clear the Halikoa?
Cut it to the ground, chainsaws and loppers. In some areas, we actually painted the new scar with concentrated Roundup, not sprayed, but painted. That keeps it from coming back so aggressively. But it's mostly grass now, and grass grows fast. And since we didn't spray something like Roundup, we're going to have to, as a community, get out there and it's a constant battle. Everybody, there's like 15 Firewise communities in Hawaii, and everyone has the same problem. You clear it down to the ground once, and then every year you've got to get up and get it done again. So you can email us at firewise808@gmail.com, or you can contact me. I have business cards, and I've given my material to Chairman.
Other questions for Matt? Any questions from the audience?
Yes, sir. By the way, I saw the land on Luna Leo cleared, and that's nice. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you need to come up so we can hear your question.
No, the first thing I said was thank you. I was just wondering where exactly are you doing this? Palunui. Yeah, where exactly where?
Right up to. So that's where all the grass has grown all these years. So that's really close to all those homes on Limala. So many of the folks there are in their 70s and 80s and can't really get up there and do it themselves. So it's a community where I'm always asking for volunteers. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Question from Elizabeth. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Matt. I do want to mention that the formal Mariners Cove Camillanui Valley Firewise designation community is in partnership with Kamehameha Schools, as well as the landowner of we all refer to it as the proposed cemetery. So Royal Construction, for instance, comes out and helps us. So it was a collaborative back then, and it still is. So I thought it was important to mention that. And I also do want to mention that in the back of the valley, where the two additional fire breaks are, that one is kept up really good every 5th week. There are people out there working on it, and I just want to give kudos to the Women's Correctional because for many years they've come out and helped us with that. As of late, they haven't been able to, but I just had to mention that they have been out there helping. And it's the Aloha Aina o Kamilanui nursery in the very back that pretty much coordinates most of that ongoing fire break work. But of course, none of it could get done without the great coordination and help from Matt. So again, I have to say kudos to him for helping keeping this going and keeping the certification annually updated. So thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. I don't see any further questions. So thank you very much, Matt, for coming and giving us that update. All right, our second presentation tonight is an introduction to the Learn School. This is a preschool program in Hawaii Kai, and our presenter is Carla Garjaka, who is the founder and executive director.
I'm on the right time. Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Carla Garjaka. I am an educational and nutritional psychologist. Which means I study the gut-brain connection. So I'm very passionate about mental health and emotional intelligence. And I've been in the field about 30 years. And what has been happening throughout the last, I would say 10 years, and especially after COVID, there has been a shift, a huge shift on our schools and on mental health. And for me as a psychologist, I decided to dedicate 3 years of my life doing research. I've been a professor for 12 years doing research. However, I wanted to understand why our kids are struggling more and more, and what have we been doing to really change this. So after 3 years, it was very amazed. I was very amazed to see what is the issue, because my research was really to understand how we can prevent, because right now we are not working with prevention. And as a holistic psychologist and as a nutritionist psychologist, I really want to understand what we can do. And after 3 years, all my research went back to the first 5 years of our lives, where 90% of our brain grows. And I was really astonished to see how little we have been doing to our preschoolers. This is where the most important time, not only related to our gut, which is the microbiome, and I can talk more later about, if you're interested, about the microbiome and how that affects our emotional intelligence, but also with the teachers. There is no investment on teachers. So during COVID, there is literally 6 preschools that shut down because we're not investing on teachers. And that's why during COVID, I decided to open my first case study, which was in the Learning Hub, which was also shut down. in Kalani Highway due to a lot of things. And after that, many of my parents decided to see, Carla, you should continue with the Learn School. So just to give an overall overview, this is a nonprofit. Learn stands for the 5 essential skills every kid needs to have in order for them to thrive and become whoever they want to be once they grow up. So L is for listening skills. Due to technology and with my expertise from Harvard in neuropsychology, we need to invest more on how to teach listening to our kids. We need to activate more their neurons. And we emphasize a lot on my school. The E is for emotional intelligence. I created the ABCD technique where we can really focus on that. A is for athletic skills. Our kids start doing exercise before they even go to reading or circle time. R is for reading. We have to revolutionize the way we do reading. And N is the most neglected aspect when it comes to development, nutrition, right? So our goal and my goal as this nonprofit is to revolutionize early education. I have been searching for a location for 2 years. We are now located in Hawaii Kai, and probably our school is going to shut down because we don't have location. It's not because there is no location, because there are, if you live in Hawaii Kai, there are preschools that shut down and there is nothing, like the buildings are there. There is, playgrounds, everything. People don't know what to do. So I think we really need to focus, and if you want to prevent people who are killing animals or doing things that are crazy, we need to prevent and start early. And that's why I want to share here with you guys. Whatever we can do, we do free workshops, we work with schools. I have been training teachers for 20 years. I have been working with schools and kids as well as an after-school program, teaching mindfulness, teaching all different areas so we can empower our kids and really shift and revolutionize the way we take a look at mental health, because it's not all in your brain. It's about the way you eat, the way you think, the way you breathe, the way you exercise, and the way you heal your body. So that's why I'm here, and I'm open for questions if you do have any.
All right. Are there any questions for Carla? Okay, I don't see any questions, Carla. Thank you very much for sharing
Yes.
your program. And I thought I would also make an announcement. If there are other preschool programs in Hawaii Kai that would like to let the community know that you are here, you're welcome to have our forum. Okay. Now, the third item under presentations, it's not really a presentation, but we were asked to put this on the agenda to consider establishing park closure hours for all beaches in East Honolulu. And we welcome any community input on this issue. We have not taken any kind of position. We'd like to hear from the community. Are there people here that would like to speak to this issue? Paige?
I just have a question as opposed to speaking on the issue. Is Mauna Lua Bay considered beach? I mean, we went through this when we were talking about closing the parks, and and I guess the grassy area is what's closed, right? So does that mean that like boat ramp area and stuff like that is considered beach? What exactly are the beaches?
I
mean, I know, but
I sent all of the board members the press release on this issue, and it was very clear that the park area was closed, but it does not close the beaches to the public. People may traverse the park to get to the beach. So I think it was very clear, what was open and what was closed.
yeah, but that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is we're talking about closing the beaches, right? That's what this is. Establishing park closure hours for all beaches in East Honolulu. So what beaches are included?
Beaches are not closed. It would just be the parks. Now, in Hawaii Kai, it would only be the beach parks from Mauna Lua Bay over towards Waimanalo.
So Sandy Beach would not be closed, but just the grassy area would be closed.
The beach park, yes.
Okay. Okay.
All right, any comments, questions? If you have a comment or question, please come on up and share your manao with us. Yeah.
I believe your question is involving the cement and parking area, right?
But could you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Kulono Quadra.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, welcome.
Born and raised here, so maybe I can answer this question a little better for you. But they put down the pavement, that area is known as Salt Flats, so that whole area is a beach. Even though that the parking is still there, still referred to that as a beach. All the pavement. Mauna Loa. Oh, that's.
Nobody has any opinions on this issue?
Aloha. Sorry. I just had my hand up for a while.
Hold on, is there Splentovich?
Yes.
Did you want to speak to this? All right, go
Yes.
ahead. I'll take you now.
Okay, thank you. So hi, I'm Sheldon Planovich. I'm a scientist. I work with our Honu and our seabirds. And as many of you know, we had 5 Honu nests at Sandy Beach last year. The first nest, when the hatchlings came out, they were disoriented by the lights. They went in the road, they got run over, they went in the parking lot. And we were able to work with city and county and get the lights turned out for the remainder of the season. And so I just wanted to say, like, we don't necessarily expect that turtle. It was a single turtle that made those 5 nests. We don't necessarily expect her to come back this year. They often take three years off, but we could have different turtles come back to Sandy's and to other beaches nearby. And if the beach closures include turning the lights off, that would be a really significant benefit to nesting Honu. We are seeing an increase in nesting that started around 2019. And so we expect to see more and more Honu nesting around Oahu. And so turning the lights off in the nighttime would be a huge benefit for not only our Honu, but also our seabirds, which are also disoriented by lights. So I just wanted to share that with you. You can contact me. Elizabeth has my info if you have any questions. Mahalo.
Okay, so your comment is if there are going to be any kind of beach closures, you would also recommend that the lights be turned off.
Yeah,
correct?
it's turned off, or motion sensors or dimmers or shields or something, because our beach, the lights are a huge issue for the Honu, not just at the beach parks, but you know, addressing lighting at the beach parks would be a significant help for the baby turtles, which you can see here in my background.
All right, thank you very much for sharing.
Of course.
Come on up.
Alex Sammons. I actually helped Sheldon with some of the turtle nets, so the lights are co-sign that. But before we get too into this, I'm sure you can imagine there's a couple people here. Can we just clarify, because before we started opening this up, there was even some discrepancies about what exactly is being closed. So before we get into this, can you guys tell us what is exactly being closed? Because I understand Sandy Beach Park and these other associated parks, but as you can imagine, there's some gray area involved with the beach access, with the pavement areas, with the dirt road areas. So if you guys could just clarify with us so we can come up here and have appropriate responses and questions. Thank you.
Well, one of our board members who is not here tonight is the one who suggested that we put this on the agenda. At our last meeting, we did take action to request closure of Jolukela Beach Park and the Mauna Loa Bay Beach Park. Actually, the way it was worded, it was the shoreline along Kalana-Anole Highway from the first bridge at the entrance to Hawaii Kai to the second bridge just after Jolukela Beach Park. And As you know, the city responded almost immediately, and they did agree because HPD also weighed in and supported park closure hours. They felt that they needed the additional tool to be able to keep vagrants out of the park overnight. So we did send a letter. Department of Parks and Recreation responded almost immediately and said that they would work on it. And if you've passed that area, you will see that park closure signs have already been installed along that shoreline by Mauna Lua Bay and Jolukela Beach Park. Ilse, you had something to say?
Yes, I went there actually this morning and those signs are in the grassy area. So one's pointing towards the Huinalu site and the other one is pointing towards the little park with the toilet house. And then there's another sign for the next parking lot very clearly depicting what's the park. So I think given where those signs are, it's the grassy areas.
Jane?
We can't close beaches. It's federal property. It's controlled by federal law.
No, it's state
It's
law
not-
also.
So, but the park is city and county, and we can close parks, but we can't close the beaches. So hopefully that helps clear up. I don't even know what the proposal is myself, but it's not the beach, it's the park.
So with all due respect, I understand, but again, this may sound stupid, but could you be clear about the like dimensions of the park? What exactly are you speaking of? Because like, are you talking about when you first touch sand or when you're not on the grass, as someone else had mentioned? So again, it's an important thing for us to respond appropriately and concisely. So the clarity is necessary.
Okay. Greg?
Okay, it seems, I'm not an expert for sure, but it does seem like I've heard many times that it's normally defined as the high water mark. So, I mean, that's definitely the sand, but usually a considerable ways beyond what is typically just the everyday high water mark. I mean, it has to be the extreme high water mark. So anyway, that, and Gene's right, it's more a state DLNR that controls the coastline, the sandy part. And then the city oftentimes, but like at Mauna Lua Bay parking area, that's state park too. So I don't know if any of this closure has any effect on that, but where the restroom is, that is evidently closed. But I have a question too, because you had said essential services cannot be closed. So does that include the restroom or not? It seems to me like a restroom would be an essential service as well. So I would think that the beach for those who want to fish and even the restroom would remain open. And
I'm
you
not sure about
transit
the restrooms
right?
because I know that the
That's an
Sandy Beach
essential service.
restrooms are closed at night.
But they shouldn't.
Elizabeth, you have your hand up?
Yeah, perhaps Chair, what we could do is we can liaison with city parks and ask that question. What does a beach park closure look like? And how do you define it? And we could do the same thing with the DLNR parks. And perhaps pick this up again next month and share that information back with the general public. And perhaps both DLNR and city parks could provide us something in writing. And it just would provide us with the opportunity to have a better conversation with the community that's present and interested.
Okay, Greg and then Paige.
But yeah, with respect to the turtles, the Honu, that was accomplished. What the city did and dimming the lights, turning that off, that's good. I don't think there's any opposition to all that. But it doesn't necessitate closure of the parks entirely. So I would say continue, protect the Honu for sure, but I'm not a fan of closing the parks.
Okay, Paige?
You know, we had this question answered because we went round and round on this the last 2 months when we were talking about the closures for Jolukela and for Mauna Lua Bay. And my understanding was that city and county park property was the grassy areas between actually the Kauai High Bridge, whatever it is, to the Marina Association Bridge. where all the grassy areas. So where Huinalu is, where the restrooms are, and the beach park area by the grassy area by Joe Lucella. That was defined as the areas that they could, city and county could put signs up and say, these are closed. Cannot close the beaches because first of all, the beaches can't close the beach. And second of all, it's state property. Now, that's why I had my question about Sandy Beach. What exactly, if we're talking about closing the beach parks, does that mean that just the grassy area at Sandy Beach is closed? Does that mean that where the Naupaka is by the lifeguard stands is closed, but the sand is not closed? I think it's really important to get both city and state officials out here to answer those questions at one time. Because we've gone around and round on this a couple of times where city says, no, it's mine. And then they say, no, it's not, it's state. And then state comes back and says,
I
"No,
did
it's
get
not."
an email from Alora Thielen, the director of the Department of Parks and Recreation, and she sent me the link that has all of the closure hours for all of the beach parks. She indicated that it is mainly a closure of the parking lot. Under Hawaii State Constitution, people have the right to access the ocean and the right to fish. That has historically meant they have the right to traverse public and in some cases, private lands to reach the ocean. People will be allowed to park outside the parking lot or park unimproved area, walk across the parkland to reach the beach, even during the closed hours. Okay? So, yes,
So
Chelsea?
that would mean, I mean, because we know Mauna Lua Bay. So at Sandy Beach, then that would mean that the parking lot would be closed. I'm trying to understand this. The parking lot would be closed and the grassy area would all be closed and the bathrooms already are closed. So they, in order to fish or do whatever, they would have to park outside of the telephone poles and then they could walk to the sand? Am I understanding that correctly?
I don't know if the Sandy Beach parking lot
Yeah,
is
I don't know.
closed.
That's
at
why
night.
I'm asking because Sandy.
My
Beach-
name is Kalima. If, Julio O. Born and raised Julio O. Introduced to Sandy Beach, 1982. One quick question. You guys locking up the beach? Is there gates being put up? That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm getting straight here.
So
The beaches,
Wait,
my-
hang on. What is the reason for closing the beach?
right,
That's my-
that was the comment that I was going to make.
Closing the beach.
We,
That's the whole deal of this whole paperwork. This park is Sandy Beach. The beach park is Sandy Beach. That's what I want to get clear. Ma'am, I've been doing this for over 40 years. I've been straight up with you. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not being disrespectful at all, honestly. But my question is,
City and the state, there's a delineation line on what constitutes beach park and what constitutes beach.
absolutely.
And that's what I'm trying to find out is
So
what,
that's the answer that I'm
but
asking.
they legally, there's no beach you can close in the state of Hawaii.
Correct.
Yes.
So so what you're saying is we're doing a little 2020 COVID days and when you couldn't go swimming in the beach, you only could park you could park outside and run to the beach. Is that what you're saying? You understand what I'm saying? Do you
Chair,
all right, hold on. This is on the agenda at the request of a board member. This is not something that we have agreed to do. And that's why we wanted the public to come
Yeah.
and tell us whether this is something we should pursue or not pursue.
Absolutely.
All
That
right.
should have been here if you brought it up.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so you got guys over here kind of worried about this kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
if I
We
may,
do things early in the morning out there.
Yeah.
We do night diving, we do night surfing.
And by the way, isn't Kuli'o'o Beach Park closed? It is closed. It has closure hours, but it does not prohibit the fishermen from going out.
Absolutely.
Right.
right.
Julio Beach Park is different from Sandy Beach. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so
Two different
I
things.
think the whole discussion started with the idea of community safety and welfare during the hours of darkness and, whoever is going in there to not necessarily surf or fish or do all the things that we were able to do. And so
Same
I
thing
think
you
if
do
we
during
can
the
focus
daytime.
on, I think we can,
do there at the time.
right,
Do
so-
exactly the same thing.
right. So if we can focus on the task and purpose of why it is that we want to restrict those hours during in night hours where, you can go surfing. But if they go out there and camp out and then that campsite starts to grow and multiply. And then you have all the surrounding areas having issues with vagrancy, security. And so we all live here. And so we just got to remember the purpose. So rather than technical issues about what boundaries, because if you focus on that, there'll always be people who will get around it. There are always loopholes. So remember the effect that we're trying to achieve. That is the safety of the community.
Charles, the lines that delineate what is beach and what is not beach is exactly what we're talking about. It is exactly what we're talking about. To tell us not to worry about what's beach and what's not beach, that's not the point. The point is what is beach and what is not beach. And I'm not talking about Mauna Lua Bay where it's pretty succinct or Kulia'o Beach Park. Sandy Beach is a different animal.
Yes.
And I personally, which is why I asked the question, would like to know what is beach and what is not beach. If you're looking to close the beach park, what is that? And if you're saying we're going to close the beach, what is that? Because you cannot close the beach. So that's why I'm requesting this stay on the agenda. We get state and city officials here who can answer that question. I want to see a map. I want to see a map that says this area, we're going to stop people from racing through the parking.
All right, I'm going to
Right.
take some administrative privilege here and defer this item till next month so that we
Okay,
can have,
just to make sure that, so
we're not taking any
will
action.
we be getting citations or anything like that if we do swim? at
No, of
night?
course not. Of course not.
Thank you.
Chair?
Okay,
Oh, Chair, Mayor?
Elizabeth, go
Chair?
ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Separate from this issue, since we have Sheldon Plenovich here, I was wondering if perhaps we could sometime in the future talk about lighting. Because if there is improvement that can be made, I'd like us to discuss that and see what we can do through community initiative to help what she was referring to. So may we, Chair, entertain having Sheldon talk about that sometime in the near future? And it's a Kaiwi issue.
Is this separate from park closure hours?
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. It's separate. It kind of like made me think, oh, cool. Here's a neat thing that we could talk about that could benefit the wildlife.
All right, so,
Thank you.
Sheldon, are you able to maybe make a presentation at our next meeting about?
I already
light
have one.
exposure?
I have one I can give you that has kind of outlines the effects on wildlife and what we can do to help. It's about, I can get it down to whatever time you want, but I'd probably need at least 5 minutes or so.
All right, I'm going to get the information from Elizabeth in terms of how to contact you, and I'll put you on the agenda for next month. And those of you who are here because you are concerned about park closure hours, we'll bring this back. And yes, we would like to hear from you, and we'll try to get some clarification on what is possible and what isn't possible to do in terms of the park. Yes, Greg?
Another complication would be that along the highway, that would be Department of Transportation that has jurisdiction over that. And before they leave, I was wondering, any of you young folks who were here for this issue want to say anything? I mean, I spent some time at Sandy's yesterday, and I was definitely a few generations out of sync, but it is a,
This is an opportunity for you to voice your concerns. Please come on up. Don't be shy. All right, well, thank you for coming out. Oh, okay, go ahead. Introduce yourself and tell us what you're thinking.
Julio
Yeah.
Beach Park, Isaac.
Isaac.
So they said they're gonna lock park, okay? when I want to go over there, I would rather park inside. I want to go, I don't know, take a stroll on the beach, swim. And I'd rather park inside than outside because I cannot trust people now they use my car and whatnot. Do I have access to park inside to go on to the beach?
I don't believe so. If the park is closed during certain hours, it's generally the parking area that's closed. So you'd have to park outside of the parking area. Thank you for coming. Yes, please come on up.
Well, while we're waiting, I do have one question for young people over there. In your experience, how much of access between what are the hours, closure hours is 10 to 5? So during that time, 10 to 5, how much access? What is the demand of the park use, the beach use? Demand, so.
What is the need
How
to
often?
be at the park between 10 at night and 5 in the morning?
Well, we all have our stress relievers. Sometimes that's just the youth so good. Part that you're, the safest part. So get access to more various things that you guys can't foresee. I think the biggest problem right now is that we're all saying the same word, but we're speaking a different language. And when you're asking your definition of a beach, and then the people that are here, their definition of a beach is a lot different. So even if you designate zoning and perimeter areas on paper, common knowledge from being born and raised here is a lot different. So they're gonna look at things a lot different. I think that's where all these problems are coming from.
What are your thoughts on the possible solutions of keeping the areas safe during the day and night? Where, I mean, that's the whole purpose of our discussion being started here of closing the parks, is because when it's open,
It's gonna sound dangerous, but I would suggest turning off the lights. Leave them open, but turn off the light. If you notice Sandy Beach, turn off the lights, it was still open. But as soon as the lights went out, everyone was gone. There was a few people there, and the people that were there were responsible because they took watch their surroundings more. The more you try to prevent someone from doing something, the more dangerous it is. I know you look out for us, but time, we all have to look out for each other.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate.
I just want to make a quick comment.
Yes, go ahead, Herb.
Yeah. I grew up out here. I also was a cop out here. I coached out here at Kaiser. And I like going to the beach parks, Coolio or wherever at any time and chilling. I buried a good friend years ago. He's China Walls, and a perfect spot to just go there and meditate was Coolio Beach Park. So I'm not against closing beach parks, but there is some abuse by the homeless. And it's frustrating me. So I was for closing the Mauna Loa Jolukela so that we can get rid of the growing population there. But I don't see any problems personally with Sandy's. I just, for some reason, I remember I had a beat partner that used to go there and just kick people out. And I told him numerous times, you can't kick people out. And they're not doing anything wrong. So I am, as of now, opposed to closing Sandy's. But we do got to watch out for the growing homeless population, which from what I understand is not in Sandy Beach Park as per se. They're across the street, they're down the road. So I hear you, you want to go there, you just want to chill a little bit, and all these parks are being closed. And it's upsetting. I'm with Greg on that one, but we had to close the one along the highway because it started with two guys who grew up out here, and it started to get like 10, 12 people. So that I just wanted to voice that. And then next month, hopefully we can come up with a good decision for our constituents.
Regarding the homeless, more about the laws between criminal and civil. As an officer, there's a lot of laws against, they give a lot of homeless rights where you can't do anything. You have to call the sheriff in. So that's where the real issue is if you want to attack the homeless, you can't ask the authorities that are there, like law enforcement, because they only have so much power unless you increase more power for them, which I'm for. But then again, that's a different issue and it's a different time.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, last comment?
Beach. That access way is a public road up until a certain point where a man, I don't know his name, but where a man lives. So the beach, right, as we all know under the laws, protected, we're protected to be on the beach. He has posted private property signs way before his property is even up, his property line, and he comes out with bats, stuff threatening us for being there on the beach. Called the cops came and actually told us that it's private property and we cannot be there. But when you're looking at his property line, it's far, far, far away from where we are. Do we have any how?
We don't have any information about that, but I think the private property extends to the roadway. So
That's a public.
I don't think it's a public road. Yes, Paige, and then Elsie.
Pico's not Hoi Kai.
So
It's not Hoi Kai. That's the first thing. Second thing is being on the beach and being on the beach legally are two different things. Because you can legally go to the beach during closure hours as a fisherman. That's why there's the loophole with the homeless people. That's why they have
Right.
fishing poles,
No, but we're
because
going in the
fishing's a loophole.
day out. That's the-
Yeah, so you can't just go down to the beach and build a bonfire. I mean, that's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, there are rules. As far as private property lines go and things like that, that's something that's between you and HPD and the homeowner. And there's nothing the neighborhood board can do about private property believe me, I know I've dealt with this for years. So, but yeah, it's unfortunate that there are.
All
people
right,
out
I'm
there-
going to have to,
But HPD can help you find out the property lines and you can deal with them professionally. So you can always contact a formal complaint or anything to just, make sure things are not going to get out of hand.
all right, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm going to get this back onto our meeting agenda. We have a lot to cover in just an hour. So our officials reports, Mayor Rick Blangiardi's representative, Amy Asselby. Are you online, Amy?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, Amy.
Hi. Okay. So one of the issues was obviously to cover the signs being posted at Joe Lucella and Mauna Lua Bay, obviously been covered. Another was also mentioned by the chair on May 23rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Cocoa Head District Park Gymnasium is the mayor's town hall on the east side of the island. So everyone is invited to come to that. It usually lasts about 2 hours and ends on time. And then I will drop the mayor's newsletter into the chat, and I know the board members receive that directly. The couple updates are just on the Cocoa Crater stable concerns. And so the departments consulted were DPR, the Department of Enterprise Services and the Department of Design and Construction. Really not a lot of information, but the managing director's office will follow up directly with board member Schreiner on the request to have another meeting out at Cocoa Crater Stables. So I guess Managing Director Formby will be in touch. For the Department of Parks and Recreation, the Division of Urban Forestry was advised by the Department of Enterprise Services to take no action since there is no contract in place yet. The negotiations for this space have been handled by the city administration. So I don't know what that means really. Maybe the repairs, the question about the repairs that may be needed based on some things that were damaged by the previous vendor. And then finally, it says the Department of Design and Construction is currently not involved in any project to do repairs at the stables. And the last thing was just, I know the film crew on the Kaiwi Coast Scenic Byway was a concern. And I believe, as I reported last time, this was not a city film office permit. It was on state park land. And so I don't know if Mike Buck is there tonight, but if he has any further comment, I do believe the state DLNR officers fined that film crew. So I will follow up on the definition of beach parks in the Hawaii Kai area. Someone asked about if a bathroom is closed when the beach park is closed. So I'll get clarification on that. And is there any further requests for clarification on city authority to close beach parks and what it means?
That would be very helpful, Amy, if you could bring that back. Thank you.
Okay.
Questions for the mayor's representative, Paige and then Jean.
Hi, Amy. Thank you for your report. What is the status of the great repair on Lane N?
They didn't give me anything this month on the great repair, so I presume it's on the list as they have told us the last months of 2024. I'll put it
Okay,
back in
thank
the
you.
question.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Amy. Thank you for your report. I wasn't here last month, and maybe you reported on this, but I had inquired 2 months ago about the accumulating debris in the drainage ditch that runs along Cocoa Crater. Were you able to find anything out about that?
Yeah, I was in my report last month.
Yeah, sorry, I missed it.
I don't have it with me today, unfortunately. As private repair.
Oh, it's private?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So it's Kamehameha Schools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I could send it to Roberta if I dig it up tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
send
you,
it to.
Amy. Any other questions for the mayor's representative? All right, thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
City Council Chair Tommy Waters' office.
Hello, good evening. Keola Fisher with Chair Waters' office. So I'm just going to keep this evening's report brief. Wanted to go ahead and report Resolution 2446, urging the Building Board of Appeals to improve its procedures for notifying the public of its meetings and making its orders available for public inspection. Was introduced by Chair Waters, and the main goal of this resolution is to foster greater transparency with the Building Board of Appeals, and urge the board to make key decisions and findings easily accessible to the public. Resolution 2465, expressing the Honolulu City Council's opposition to House Bill 1630 and Senate Bill 3202, was introduced by Councilmember Kiaina and Chair Waters. Um, This was also heard today at the council meeting. Let's see. I wanted to go ahead and just kind of speak to board member Antlin, I guess. The definition by DPR, beach parks owned and controlled by the city, the high water mark shall be considered the Mackay boundary for city parks, delineating between city and state DLNR. Cocoa Head Stables and Botanical Gardens water line possibly going out to bid in 1 year. That's going to be using calendar year 25, first quarter. The project is to relocate existing water line for better accessibility. The water line for the Cocoa Head Stables and Botanical Garden will be upgraded. This water line also serves Sandy Beach. In the fiscal year 25 CIP budget, there is $400,000 for design of the Sandy Beach Park waterline. The CIP budget had its first reading today at the March full council meeting, and we will follow up with the Department of Design and Construction on both projects as they're both linked to one another. The council has our committee draft review of the budget for fiscal year 25 on Monday, April 1st, beginning at 9 a.m. Let's see. Sorry, can't read my handwriting, I apologize. Chair Waters or D4 staff will provide a list of the CIP projects in the for Council District 4 at the next neighborhood board. I'm available for any questions I can take back for Chair Waters or staff.
Questions for the city council chair? Yes, Herb.
Hi, Keola, thanks for coming, or being here. You just said that the water line for Sandy's, Cocoa Crater Stables, and the Botanical Gardens is a CIP project. Does that include the money that was put aside to fix the Cocoa Crater Stables?
You're speaking of the infrastructure, correct? Like the
Yeah.
building.
I mean, we
No,
were told, we were told by Ms. Asobai last week or last month that they were gonna work the water for the two inside crater businesses, but you just brought up a different water theory. So I'm just curious, is that a separate budget from the 300,000 for the stables?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can go ahead and clarify as far as the 300,000 with regards to CIP. The particular project that I'm referencing is the 400 with DDC for the design of the Sandy Beach water line that is shared with the crater, the stable, as well as the Botanical Garden.
Thank you.
Other questions for the, yes, Paige?
Hi, Keola, thank you. So I have a question for you. We received a notification of the special meeting for the Committee on Planning regarding Chair Waters' position on SB 3202 and HB 1630. And I'm a little concerned about his verbiage here. He says, I'm deeply concerned about these measures as currently written. Does that mean that they were written differently, he'd support this kind of Hong Kong density build in our neighborhoods?
That's a really good question. I apologize. I don't want to speak, specifically for Chair, but I can get clarification and I can provide it to Chair Mayor, and we can also forward that to you as well, just to get clarification to make sure that it's verbiage or how he.
I would like a definitive yes or no. Does he or does he not support the Hong Kong density build? And he's saying that as it's written, he does not, which tells me that if it was written differently, then he would. So I would just like to know whether he wants our neighborhoods to look like this or not. It's pretty straightforward question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
I will
Elizabeth?
answer that.
I can't speak for Councilman Waters, but what I can tell you is he did a great job with Esther Kiana on that initiative with the resolution to combat Oahu being part of that density bill that the state is trying to push through. So again, I can't speak for him, but I am very comfortable with his position. And he was also on the news that he does not like where this is going. So that's public knowledge. To that end, Keola, I'd like to know, I understand Monday, the state is taking this up again. It's fast tracking. I was rather hoping that our mayor would hold a press conference with city council after the passing of the resolution and that they would draw a line in the sand and say, keep Oahu out of this initiative at the state level and allow us to continue to do what we're doing with our planning. But I'm not quite sure where it's there with the mayor. But for the councilman, do you think you'll be going on Monday over to the ledge to represent the position on behalf of city council?
I'm not sure. I can double check and I can get back to you as well as with Chair Mayor as well.
My
to provide you
understanding is that just somebody from the Department of Planning and Permitting was going, and they've sort of been, with all due respect, they've been inching along, working and wordsmithing and trying to negotiate. But the process is so flawed. And when you have such a flawed process, chaos, you cannot get rid of the chaos. So by taking Oahu out of it completely, as Esther and, excuse me, Chair, Council Member Kiana and Waters was recommending, is really the best way to move forward. So that I'll stop right there. But this is very concerning and everybody should be concerned because it's fast tracking, it's moving quick, and we should not have the state overreach and tell the county what's best for the people of Oahu. Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other questions. You please come on up and make it fast. We don't have very much time.
Question I have is about the water line, the high water line. Is that considered tsunami? If a tsunami was to come, is that considered a potential? Yeah.
I think that would be like a
Or just
like
maybe
an
make
anomaly,
sense.
like a natural. Sorry, I think this is to delineate between.
I think that the reference to the high water mark is to delineate the what is state property and what is city property.
Correct. And just to kind of echo with what Chair Mayor had mentioned, what I was mentioning was just to help delineate between jurisdiction between the city, DPR, and then the state department, DLNR.
It has nothing to do with the tsunami. A lot of our shoreline is in flood zone, flood evacuation area, and sea level rising. There's a lot of danger of that too. So,
Thank you.
okay. All right. Mike Buck, the governor's representative.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to join you again. During the initial part of the meeting tonight, I texted my wife to see if she could bring me some body armor and a helmet, understanding that we got some things to be concerned about. The biggest thing, oh, by the way, that hump cost me a crown. I hit it 35 miles and it said, oh, smokes. We need a blinking light or something here. I want to tell you though, between the Department of Transportation and other departments, that there's CIP and there's other things. And one of the things that's going on is a study. And I'm guessing that the study about this hump is a temporary one. And that, trust me, that's gonna be my main take out of here when I leave, is to find out who in the heck put this in and why weren't the ends sheared off so bicycles didn't run over, and all of these things. I think that in an effort to go out and do well, it might be something that's going to come a question. And I can understand now why others in other neighborhoods feel the same way. I don't agree with one of the testifiers that it's going to be more dangerous for kids and people on bicycles than it is in cars. I think cars, that's just me. They are, the email coming in on that is overwhelming. The other thing that I wanted to tell you about is with regards to the park closures. The state is looking at this the same way, and I understand that there's a lot of controversy about high water and this and that. Basically, it was Paige that brought it up earlier. The beaches cannot be closed. You might have a hell of a time getting to them, but they're not going to be closed. And the thing that we get the most calls of is, okay, if we're trying to just transgress over the park to get to fishing, why can't we park our car in the parking lot instead of going out on the highway? And the answer given was, it's simple. Parking lot is part of the park that is closed. I don't know any other way to put that. Couple of things that have come through the ledge and they're still very, very much alive is the cost of homelessness. And all of these things that are happening now. For instance, in Hawaii, I got to put my specs on to see this one, but it scared me to death. Roughly 41 out of every 10,000 people in Hawaii are homeless. That national number is 18. This means that we are on a list that we don't want to be on. People who experience homelessness on any given night here in Hawaii is 6,223. These are a lot of people that need an awful lot of help. And one of the things that somebody mentioned, Dr. Ireland earlier, and sirens and all of the sirens that you're going through main traffic. According to the CDC, an average of 200 emergency department visits per homeless 100. That means they're going 2 1/3 times. That's just the stat from the National Center for Health Statistics. The National Ambulatory Case Survey, it's unbelievable. The 51 years, that's the average life expectancy of somebody living homeless. And we are 85. And the real thing that we have to understand is right now, as of April, Medicaid in Hawaii has an enrollment of more than 460,000. That's really, really getting up near half. It covered 1/3 of Hawaii residents and a half of all keiki. So this is why when somebody brought up what's going to happen at that park, where are these people going to go that have to leave there at 10 o'clock? And the concern would be at the neighborhood levels, they're going to go into the sleeping in hedges and they're going to be doing things that there's no transport at that time of night. So it is a very valid concern that you all have. And I want you to know that the governor's cabinet, mayor, neighbor islanders are all working on this. This is the biggest issue that we have to face right now, particularly when it comes to money. I had all kinds of other stats, but it's getting late, so I'd rather take questions. And I'm going to wear a helmet. Paige.
Go ahead, Paige.
So I have something that was already brought up by Elizabeth. There was an issue with the film crew that got
I'm
fined.
sorry, they didn't get that.
Go
I mean,
ahead.
it was mentioned, but I didn't
Yeah.
write it down. So
Go
would you
ahead.
like me to give you what we thought about that?
Sure.
Okay. The film crew was in violation of the permit that they got. And it was done on state property, not city property, and they have been reprimanded because they did not do what they got a permit to do.
They were also fined $500.
Yes. Which in the hierarchy of things is chump change when they're doing that kind of thing. But it's good to see that they didn't allow them to get away from it. I talked to the film office and I talked to the DLNR and I said, you know, what's with this? How can they do this? And the answer was they can't. They did it and there was nobody to. By the time they figured out what was going on, it was too late. The damage was done. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Okay. So this film crew that was filming, this is not the first time I've been on many, many, many sets, NCIS, 50 movies. I've been on all of them. And they love to use our state property and our city property. My suggestion is that somehow through DPR or through some other entity, I don't know who it would be, that every single filming that's done on city or state property that, well, and it's all gonna involve the INA somehow, but that there be somebody on set that's like the INA watch person.
Yeah, you bet.
And there should be, for every single filming, every single time they film on that property, they should have somebody from the state or from the city that is there to watch them mow down the Naupaka or knock over whatever, or to make sure that the Honu are being, there should be somebody on site for every single filming. And you're talking about put a lot of people to work, and it's a good thing. This would be a good thing because these guys do a lot of damage that they don't even think that they're doing. And it's not just about knocking down a pole or running over some Naupaka. I've seen them do damage that it's not even like that most people wouldn't even think twice about it. But as locals or as somebody who's like an INA watch person, they would be like, you can't do that. You can't
Yeah,
move that rock.
I got to
can't
tell you,
do that."
homeowners are lucky because their properties are usually returned better than when the crew got there. And I speak from experience for I had a recurring role on 5 and Magnum for 5 years and have been on lots and lots of these sets, a lot. And there are crews that are supposed to be watching that. But I think Paige is right. I'm not sure when they get to the state, if they have somebody out of the state film office. I do know that the city film, there's somebody on that campus every day, all shoot. And so particularly if it's in neighborhoods, but this, I guess that's a question that I can't answer, but it is a really good one because they should
Okay,
have.
we're going to have to move this along, okay?
Mhm.
To wrap up your report, Mike. Anything else?
Are there any more questions?
Any other questions for Mike? All right. Not tonight. Thanks so much for staying so late.
Okay, I'll put my helmet on.
Okay.
Thank you.
But by the way, Galen, we have an issue coming up under board business about the left turn out of. Would you be able to stick around for a little bit longer? We're going to get to that soon. All right. Senator Stanley Chang's office. Is there a rep online?
Good evening, Chair. Can you see
Oh,
me?
hello, Stanley. Yes, I can see you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you tonight. Let me just try to keep it brief since I know we're short on time. As you folks know, the legislature recently passed its crossover deadline, which means that 291 bills have passed out of the Senate and are being heard in the House right now, and 275 bills have been passed out of the House and are currently being heard in the Senate. Our Senate Committee on Housing has been busy. We recently concluded our hearings on both House bills and resolutions. Just a couple of the highlights so far this session I wanted to mention are HB 1763, which would end the state practice of subsidizing temporarily affordable housing and instead prioritize permanently affordable housing developments. HB 1808, which allows counties to build both mixed income and mixed use housing. SB 2066, which creates an alternate pathway to the 201H process by requiring all units to be owner occupied. And SB 2133, which allows for the issuance of bonds to finance infrastructure development, which is one of the main obstacles to housing development. I hope you've received our newsletter, which you can refer to for regular updates on our work. And I'll also include in the chat a link to our newsletters. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Senator, our board did take a position against SB 3202 last meeting. And we did submit testimony opposing that bill. And we think that it would change, the character of our neighborhood to have all of these small units or subdividing existing residential lots and putting up additional units. I have heard arguments that we're trying to provide more housing for Ohana and, accessory dwelling units. But if that's the case, the bill should be so stated, to allow additional accessory dwelling units, not to be able to subdivide existing lots into 2,000 square foot lots. Can you speak to that bill? I know that it's coming up for hearing next week, I think, or is it the week after?
Yes, thanks. We did receive the correspondence from the board, and I appreciate all the input that we've received. So I share the concern that the bill might not be in a final form yet. I think that there are legitimate concerns when it comes to the subdivision of lots. I will say that, the existing Ohana program has took effect back in 1981, and there are thousands of homes statewide with legal Ohana units. The ADU program took effect here in the city and county in 2015, and there are hundreds of homes countywide, island-wide, that have legal ADUs. Those two programs are currently mutually exclusive, and I think that it's a modest change to those programs if we were to make them non-mutually exclusive, so that a homeowner could have both an ADU and an Ohana unit on their property. As you folks know from the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan, these programs are not particularly highly utilized at the moment. The most recent plan estimated that about 2 Ohana or ADUs would be built per year in East Honolulu for the next 15 or 20 years. And so I think one of the reasons for the relatively slow uptake is that DPP regulates what can be built. The city regulates what can be built on single family lots quite extensively. It regulates the number of unrelated persons that can live in a single family home. It regulates the number of kitchen appliances that can go into a single family home, the setbacks, the parking requirements, and so on. And that power would continue to remain with the counties even after passage of this bill. So I don't think that much will change with the passage of the bill. But I understand that concerns have been raised, and I don't know that the bill is in a final form yet.
Senator, I thought that part of this bill was to disallow the counties to regulate the density on residential property.
It would do so, but only in very narrow and specific ways. So again, under this bill, the homeowner would be able to build both an ADU and an Ohana unit in theory, but in practice, that would only happen if the setbacks complied with existing laws, if the off-street parking requirements were met, if existing floor area ratio requirements were met, height requirements, and so on. So in practice, the counties still have extensive control over the density of all zones, and that would not change with this bill. The bill expressly gives the counties the continued authority to regulate things like height and setbacks and off-street parking.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Paige, question?
Senator, with all due respect, the county doesn't have control now of what people are building on their properties. There are monster homes going up all over the place that they're not in control of. You've got homeowners that are building homes to house 20 people, 22 people in very, very small lots in Kalihi and I mean, it's insane what they're doing now. So to suggest that this bill, which calls for up to 30 dwelling units on a 20,000 square foot lot, and that the county is going to have control over all of that, I don't understand that. first of all. And what I would really like to know is, what is your intention with this bill? When you decided to write this stuff down on paper and you came up with this, what were you thinking? What was your intention with this?
So let me first address the issue of the monster houses. Monster houses are illegal today, and that will not change whether or not this bill is passed. As you know, no more than 5 unrelated individuals can reside in a single family home. As you know, you can't have multiple kitchens in a single family home, and none of that would change. So as you know, a lot of the monster houses skirt these existing requirements by lying to the inspectors. And that is a crime. Back when I was on the city council, we introduced measures to enhance the penalties for that crime. And I understand that the city council is examining further legislation to do so. Because no matter what is allowed or disallowed, I think we can all agree that lying to DPP to get permits should not be tolerated. So this bill would not change any of that. With respect to your second question, Board Member Alton, this bill was drafted by my counterpart in the House of Representatives, Chair Evslin of the House Housing Committee. And as a matter of courtesy, he introduces bills, the House companions of bills that I've proposed and vice versa. So, that's how that happened.
So you do not support this bill then? This is your bill. SB 3202 is your bill. It's a Senate bill. Are you saying that you piggyback this on the HB bill and you had nothing to do with anything to do in this bill and you just support it? Or is this your bill?
Well, it is our bill. We introduced it, again, as a courtesy to our counterpart in the House. I think that there are ideas that, are worth discussing. As you know, we have had the Ohana and ADU programs in Honolulu for many years now. I think a modest extension of these programs is very much something that the legislature can and should discuss. Whether or not the bill is perfect in its current form is, that's a different question. I voted yes on the bill when it was before us in the Senate, based on the testimony that we received, and based on the idea of continuing the discussion in the legislative process.
All right, Herb has a question.
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand this. If I have a 8,000 square foot lot, I can build 4 homes on 2,000 square feet of each.
So you would have to look at all of the regulations for off-street parking, for setbacks, for height, and so on. So I think it's rather unlikely, but you would have to ask an architect or depending on the size of your parcel, to see what you could and could not do based on the law.
Okay, well, Senator, we just wanted you to know
Oh,
that
wait.
we're
Chair
not so
Mayor?
sure that we support, we also have another question, I'm sorry. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thank you. So, with all due respect, therein lies the chaos, what you just said right now. Therein lies the chaos of what is being forced upon the city and county of Honolulu to have to deal with. And this is really unfair. That being said, Herb, on a 10,000 square foot lot, you can subdivide it to 2,000 square feet each. You'll have 4 lots, and in each one, you can put 3 units. You have to understand that the infrastructure cannot carry it. Why would we possibly put something like this and discuss it The neighbor island has far greater vacant lands, and I understand where it comes from with them. But in this urbanized area that's so dense, why would we possibly even suggest it and put it on the backs of the existing residential community? That being said, my biggest fear is the foreign investor. Nowhere does it say anything about affordable, and nowhere does it say anything about a foreign investor. Now, you may say, must be owner occupied, but we already know that the DPP is trying to catch their breath. And now we're burdening them. We're throwing this additional curveball. Well-intended, interesting idea, 2,000 square foot lots. Interesting idea, small homes, but on open, undeveloped land. For the island of Oahu, there is such land. Why crowd and change the complexion of our single-family residential homes? It's grossly unfair and very, very chaotic. And it's such an awkward conversation to have with you, Senator, because we have worked so well together on so many things. I could only hope between now and then you think a little deeper about this and recognize that Oahu should be kept out of this time around. Continue to have a conversation with Oahu about it. And I'd also like you to comment on what your thoughts are relating to City Council and the action that they took today. Does that carry any weight with you? They speak for the people and County of Honolulu. Thank you so much, Senator. I appreciate your being here.
Thank you, Board Member Riley. And, you know, let me first say that I appreciate everyone's feedback in today's meeting. I strongly encourage you to continue to be involved in the legislative process and make your voice heard, both with myself and with all of our colleagues at the legislature and all of our colleagues, all of our friends across the street at the City Council. I think that, you know, I think that thorough dialogue of the issues is critically important for all of us. So, you know, please don't think that our doors will ever be closed to that. I think that the City Council's resolution, if it passes, you know, I think that people at the legislature will, you know, will consider it. I don't think the City Council will be making decisions like this lightly. And I agree with you that there is, that there has not been, I don't know that there's been a thorough examination of all the implications of what would happen with this measure. I don't know that, you know, for example, the scenario discussed of, you know, carving up a given lot into 2,000 square foot parcels, whether that would in practice be possible, or how much of a difference it would make compared to existing condo laws, because as you know, you can currently CPR a parcel and divide it that way. You've also raised questions about enforcement at DPP with respect to monster houses and various other code violations. I know that the board has been active on these issues in the past, and I think that's also a very legitimate question. So I think that we all have to make difficult decisions, and the more information that at the legislature we have, just as you do at the neighborhood board level, the better the decision-making process will be.
All right, I'm going to have to bring this discussion to an end because we have a lot to cover and just a few minutes to do so. So, Senator, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope that you'll be back at a meeting very soon.
Excuse me, we had one gentleman waiting.
But I'm okay. Thank you. All right. Senator Chris Lee's office. No representative online. All right. Representative Jean Ward's office. No representative online. Representative Mark Hasham's office. No person online. Okay. Anybody from our congressional delegates? All right, moving on to board business. First on our agenda is consider banning left turns for vehicles exiting Coco Marina Shopping Center onto Kalanaanaole Highway. Galen Wong from the State Department of Transportation, is this an issue that the State Department of Transportation would address, or would it be the City Department of Transportation Services?
Look like it might be state because it's coming onto the state highway. I can check with that.
Okay, would you please check into that? And if we could maybe have an assessment of whether that's a dangerous
Yeah.
behavior. I mean, we in the community think it is very dangerous, and it's not dangerous all during the day, but when traffic is very heavy on that highway, having people turn left towards Hanama Bay makes traffic very dangerous. So, yes. So and perhaps you could let me know whether or not, first of all, it's the state's responsibility and whether someone will take the time to look into.
And the speed bump.
All right.
so far. And then I brought some other stuff that I could have discussed, but you see that for later.
Okay. All right. Jean and then Paige.
And in addition to that, if the left turn were to be banned, everyone would be exiting out on the Lunalula Home Road exit. And is there sufficient capacity at that intersection to actually handle that?
We would have to, look at all that and study, and then, because you're coming out of the shopping center, right? Yeah, so they would also have to discuss it with the shopping center and what it might cause. problems.
So this is an issue that has been discussed before. It was discussed many years ago. One of the resolutions that was brought from the DOT at that time that it was initially talked about was to do with that intersection there, what they did in New Valley, which is even though there is a light at Little Home Road and Colonial, that they would put another light in right there at the exit, that entrance exit from Coco Marina. The police also weighed in at the time, and they said that they felt that there were not enough fatalities at that intersection. Yes, there had been accidents, and yes, there had been issues, but fatalities was what they were looking at. I don't know what the parameters are now, but mind you, we're talking about, 15 years ago. And it was people were overwhelmingly against having a light and then another light, and then they didn't like that aspect of it. I think also what needs to be taken into consideration is not just about no left turn at that exit by the Chevron station from Coco Marina. There's also another entrance just past the bus stop, an entrance and an exit where people make left turns all the time. So are they going to put another light there? It would be exactly like New Valley. And then you have it's supposed to be an exit only by the bank, by First Hawaiian Bank. It's supposed to be an exit only. I see people entering there all the time. And I see people making left turns onto Cal Highway from that exit also. So there's a lot that needs to be taken into consideration. It's not just about, oh, well, people shouldn't be making left turns here. There's a lot that has to be discussed before any kind of change is made. So I just want all of that to be talked about. Thank you.
So yes, how many, 3 of them or 4 of them?
There's 4, well, there's 3 and there's 2 entrances and exits, and there's 1 exit.
Thank you
So
very.
we'll probably look it on the map.
Okay, thank you very much. And then you have my email so that
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
let me
mine.
know, and then I will share with the board.
Yeah.
But if you could maybe have someone come back to our April meeting, we meet on April 30th. And,
For sure someone will be here.
all right. Thank you.
And
Appreciate
then,
that.
and also the port lock, left turn, that you guys also mentioned.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much for staying
Okay.
so late, and nice meeting you. We appreciate it. Okay, there is no update on the Coco Head shooting range, so I'll be moving on. The Coco Crater Stables, it was covered in the mayor's report, And I believe that our board member Herb is going to be following up with City and County Mike Formby to find out a little bit more about the allocation of that city money to repair the stables. The EVCO Scenic Byway that has been discussed earlier this evening when we were talking about park closures and beach lights, and also when we were talking about the use of the area by the film crew. And I have no updates on Camilo Nui Valley agriculture. All right. Yes, go ahead, Greg.
Regard to the shooting range. We were told earlier that it was going to expand its hours, but it hasn't. I thought they had said March 15th, so it hasn't happened. So just to mention, I have no idea why or when.
Yeah, I thought that the expansion of hours was contingent on hiring another full-time person. So I think that they were in the process of hiring that second person. So, but we'll continue to inquire. To our new board members, I do need to let you know that we do have board committees, and I'm hoping that one of you will volunteer to chair the Transportation Committee. We do not have a chair for that committee, and so there are many issues on transportation, as you know, that come to the full board. So it might be helpful if one of you were willing to chair that committee. Let me also advise you that there is a 3 absence limit during a term. That means that if you are absent for 3 times in an 11-month term, you'll get a letter asking whether or not you have any intention of staying on the board, and you can respond to that, but the board members also can remove you from the board for non-participation. All right? So, and new members, make sure that I have your contact information, telephone number, and email, because I do send out a lot of communication during the month between our meetings. Okay, we're going to be moving on. Oh, and let me just remind everybody that I did send a letter from this board to the City Council, letting them know that we endorsed the East Honolulu Watershed Management Plan. I did submit testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 3202 and House Bill 1630, but there will be a follow-up hearing in the Senate. And if any one of you is willing to go and provide oral testimony, please feel free to do so. Contact me. I do have the date and time someplace in my email. Let me also remind you that I did send a letter to the Department of Transportation Services at the city level asking about speed mitigation options for Kalama Valley. I have not yet heard back in response to that letter. And the 4th letter had to do with the park closure hours for Joe Lukela Beach Park and Mauna Lua Beach Park. And as you know, the city acted very quickly on our request, and that has already been completed. So moving on to the approval of the regular meeting minutes for February 27th that was distributed. Are there any suggestions for revisions for the meeting for those minutes? Seeing none, the minutes for February 27 are accepted as distributed. Are there other board announcements from any board member? If not, I'm going to be going into the closing announcements. The next regular meeting of the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board is on Tuesday, April 30th at 7:00 p.m. at Hahaione Elementary School cafeteria and on WebEx. The Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board regular meetings are cable cast on Olelo Channel 49 on the 2nd Monday of the following month at 9:00 p.m. and repeating on that month's 3rd Friday at 7:00 a.m. Videos can also be seen online at the Olelo webpage or at the Neighborhood Commission Office Board webpage. I want to thank the volunteers for agreeing to join us. We now have a fully staffed neighborhood board of 15 members. And you all have a wonderful month until I see you on April 30th. Meeting is adjourned.
Just two things. One, for when the Senate bill, I think, the problem would be the architecture. They're, if they're certified with lawyer, they're being foreign people that just build and pay the fines. I think that's where the problem is with that one. And as for the gun range, they should have certifications on that, for volunteers, because the people that are gonna be there, that wanna be there, might as well volunteer, that solves the problem, you know? That's it.